Want to achieve network marketing success? Then you're in the right company. Hello, and welcome to Leave Nothing to Chance, hosted by networking marketing giant, John Solleder. Learn everything you need to know about the network marketing space from somebody who's actually done it. Join us every week for front row seats as we feature some of the finest and most successful personalities in network marketing. Leave nothing to chance. Join us now.
Well, it is a tremendous, tremendous day as we welcome Dre All Day Baldwin to the show. Dre is a gentleman that, amongst other things, played professional basketball for 9 years after sitting on the bench in high school. And he's got an interesting story about how he's done that. He's written 33 books already, but he's still a young guy. So he's got a lot more in him. 4 times he has been a TEDx talker. Over 73 million views and growing daily on the internet. That's a little bit, but there's a whole lot more to Dre Baldwin than that. So Dre, why don't we just start with a little bit about your life story? Because it is at the very least impressive and just incredible what you've done with your life so far and what you'll continue to do with it for many, many years to come, hopefully.
Well, I appreciate it, John. So what version of the story you want? The 2-minute version, 10-minute? How much time are we taking here?
As much as you want. It's inspirational, to say the least.
Okay, sure. So come from the city of Philadelphia, now living in Miami, Florida. Background was always played sports, always athletic kid. So played kickball in the backyard, driveway, touch football, basketball on portable courts. Eventually got into team sports, probably maybe 8-9 years old. Went out for football, didn't really play. My family couldn't afford football equipment, so I never seriously played football. Then went into baseball. And baseball I played for a few years, but I didn't really have talent for baseball. I was mediocre. I was athletic enough to keep up with 14-year-olds and 12-year-olds, but not really good at baseball. Finally wandered over to the basketball court around age 14. An environment I come from, every young man plays basketball. So it's pretty easy to play. You don't need equipment or tools. So got into basketball at 14. That was my last stop in sports, but I was not good when I first started playing basketball. Didn't make my high school team until my senior year. Now, we didn't have a JV or freshman team in my defense. We only had one team. I didn't make that one team until I was a senior. I scored 2 points per game as a senior in high school on the basketball team, John. So anybody who's not familiar with sports, 2 points is not a lot in basketball. So if you're playing hockey or soccer, 2 points per game, you're in the Hall of Fame. 2 points per game in basketball, you're nothing. So getting out of high school, I knew I was going to college just on the academic personal level, but I was not invited to college as an athlete, which means I did not have a scholarship offer. There were no coaches anticipating my arrival on campus. So I went to college and I had to walk on if I was going to play basketball. For those who don't know the sports world, walking on just means you really walk into the gym and you try to play your way onto the sports team, which I was able to do. I walked on and made the team at a school called Penn State Abington, which these days is a Division III college. Now, Division III is the third tier of college sports, down basically in the basement of college sports. So when you watch basketball on TV, March Madness, the tournament and all that, that's Division I. I was at Division III. And Division III does not produce pro athletes. So I did play 4 years of college ball, ended up at Penn State Altoona, which at the time was a full-fledged D3. At the time, Altoona was not yet full-fledged D3. It is now, but finished at Penn State Altoona, was another branch of Penn State University. And getting out of college, I was in the same situation basketball-wise that I had been in after high school. Nobody was checking for me to come play professional sports either. So my first year out of college, John, I worked a couple of regular jobs. I worked at Foot Locker as a assistant manager. I worked at Bally Total Fitness as a membership salesperson. Now, Bally, some of you may not know about because they're out of business now, but that's not because of me. John, I sold a lot of memberships at Bally Total Fitness in the summer of 2005. So in the summer of 2005, speaking of such, I had always kept my eye on pro basketball. So even though I had this 1 year detour of not playing pro basketball, I still had my sights set on making it happen. So in 2005, I was 23 years of age, 1 year removed from graduation. I saved up my money to go to an event called an exposure camp. John, you familiar with those? Ever heard of it?
A little bit. Yep.
Okay, so an exposure camp, now they're becoming more popular these days, but back then they were relatively new. Exposure camp is basically a job fair, but for athletes. This is where athletes, you show up and you and a bunch of other athletes who all think they're good enough to be a higher profile player, because they have these they got these for high schoolers nowadays and college players. But at the pro level, exposure camp is for players who are trying to get their first or their next job in pro basketball. So sometimes even players who have already played pro ball go to these camps because they're trying to get seen. And these are destination events, which means not only do a bunch of players show up, but the audience is not just random people off the street. These are agents, managers, coaches, scouts from all over the world who are looking for talent. They come looking for people to come be the next player on their team. So these events are a big deal in the pro basketball world. So this event was in Orlando, Florida. Now, again, I'm from Philadelphia. This is where I grew up. I was in Philly at the time. Me and a couple of my now ex-college teammates, we rented a car in Philly, and we drove the 19 hours from Philadelphia to Orlando. We left on Friday afternoon, and we got there Saturday. The camp started at 9 a.m. Saturday morning. We arrived at 9 a.m. Saturday morning. We hopped out the car and started playing. Now, again, I can get away with that at age 23. Probably couldn't do it now, but I could do it then. And the camp was only 2 days long, and just 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. And I played well enough at that exposure camp to get a good scouting report. And this mattered a lot because now I had some collateral, because playing at the school that I played at, people don't know, like back in 2000, from 2000 to 2004, we didn't have video cameras on our phones. So it's not like all the things that I did on the court in college were on the record. There was no record. There was some tapes, but there was one tape of every game. There was one tape. And if that tape wasn't found, then that game basically didn't happen. So I needed some collateral. And also because I played the D3 level. So no matter what I did, I was only playing against guys who were going to be, insurance salespeople after they got out of college. So it wasn't really proving anything to play on them, play against them, or dunk on one of those guys. I had to play against somebody who was a pro. So playing this exposure camp mattered a lot to me because now I had collateral. I had a professional scout look at me play and say, this guy is good enough to play pro. That's the scouting report made me look pretty good. So that was one thing that I now had in my hand. And I also had the footage from this exposure camp. And that footage was on this thing called a VHS tape. John, you remember those?
Sure do.
Okay, so millennials listen to this. You can Google it. It's called VHS, or you ask your parents or your uncles, and they'll tell you what a VHS tape is. So all this footage on this thing called a VHS tape was a physical device that you had your footage on. There was only one copy. There was no copy paste. So I went back home to Philly. I had to be back at work on Monday morning. This exposure camp was Saturday, Sunday. I had to be back at work on Monday. I'm back at Bali Total Fitness. I started cold calling basketball agents, John. So again, millennials, cold calls. That means you pick up the phone, you just call a person who's not expecting your call, and you basically try to persuade or influence them to do something, whatever you're trying to do. So I went on Google, which did exist at the time, and I started looking up basketball agents. So any basketball agent who had a phone number, I was calling them, and I would say, hey, here's who I am, here's what I have, here's what I've done. And the only reason I was doing this now, as opposed to not the year before, because I've been out of school for a year already, was now I had some proof. Because before, all I had was just my talk, and talk is cheap. Now I had proof. I had a scouting report and I had footage. So now these agents, I called 60 basketball agents, by the way, 60. Of those 60 who I called, 20 responded and said, okay, show me what you have. Of those 20, I sent all of them the link to the scouting report, which was posted online. But the footage, mind you, it was on the VHS tape. I got that footage. I went and put it into at home. I had a double-decker VCR. Again, millennials look up VCR. It's this device that lets you play VHS tapes. And I went to this drugstore called Eckerd. I don't know if they still exist, but I bought a 10-pack of blank VHS tapes from Eckerd. And I would make copies of the master VHS footage. And I mailed those in bubble mailers to every agent who asked to see my footage. This is the way we got footage out there back in the day. So of those 20 agents who I sent the footage to, John, one agent followed up after receiving the footage, and he said, I will represent you. He became my agent. And that's how I got my first job in professional basketball. That's how my pro career started. This is in the summer of 2005. Now, a parallel story is happening here. In that footage that was on that VHS tape, I realized that if you drop or let a VHS tape get wet, or you leave it in the sun, or you just simply misplace it, that footage is gone and there's no copy of it. So I wanted to put this somewhere for safekeeping, and I knew it would last. Now, the internet did exist at the time, and it was starting to become a thing, but it was nothing like what it is today. But I did hear, John, that there was this new website that said you could put footage up here for free and put up as much as you want. It was called youtube.com. So what I did was take that VHS tape to an audio visual store. They put the footage on a data CD. And that data CD, I can now insert into a desktop computer, and I uploaded my footage to YouTube. and didn't think anything of it. Now, mind you, this is not some perfect scenario. All of a sudden I became this famous influencer. That didn't happen. Nobody cared about YouTube in 2005. I mean, it existed, but nobody really cared. All that was on YouTube back then was cat videos and Johnny bit my finger, right? Other than that, nobody cared about YouTube. And there was no money to be made from putting the video on YouTube. So I put the video there, forgot about it, went about my business playing pro basketball. About 6 months later, I went to the YouTube site just to make sure the video was still there, make sure YouTube still existed. And lo and behold, John, there were comments on my video. People were commenting on the video. And I noticed people didn't know me. So what are they commenting? They're commenting like, hey, where are you from? Who taught you how to play? Where do you play at? How often do you practice? Can you make more videos? Can you make videos about how to jump higher? Can you make videos about how to do the crossover move? Can you make videos about shooting a jump shot? And what I realized, John, was that right there on the internet in my face was an underserved audience of players who were just like me. They were just younger than me. They were basketball enthusiasts. They wanted to get better and learn how to play, but they didn't have anyone to teach them. That's exactly who I had been 10 years earlier. But they had the advantage of that they could go to the internet and crowdsource information, as opposed to somebody like myself back in the 90s. We were stuck with either you know somebody locally or you're on your own. So I was basically tasked with, the light bulb went off in my head. Hey, I can just make videos for these kids and I can basically pay it forward and help them learn how to practice basketball since I'm already out here and I'm already available. So I literally started, there was no other athlete in any sport putting here's how you train for the sport content on the internet in 2005. I was the first one to do it, period. So I started putting these videos up, but only sporadically. This was not like all of a sudden, again, it's not like all of a sudden, John, I said, I found my calling. I'm just putting videos on YouTube. Again, it's 2005. Nobody cares about putting videos on YouTube. This may be even into 2006, 2007. Nobody really cares. This started to pick up a little bit, but again, what does it matter? You got a bunch of people look at your video on YouTube. Okay, congratulations. What does that mean? Nothing. So for the next few years, I'm playing basketball back and forth between the USA and different countries in Europe where I'm playing. I'm putting videos on YouTube maybe once a month, whenever I feel like it, whenever I get around to putting a video out. And, you know, that's how things are going. So about 2009, though, John, my phone's not ringing. So anybody who knows those of you who don't know the sports world, even some of you who do, you all have to understand that the sports world is similar to the acting space in the entertainment world, in that, yes, you know about the famous athletes and actors, the Taylor Swifts, or in acting, Will Smith or John Travolta or George Clooney. Their phone's always ringing. They turn down more jobs than they take, right? And then in sports, you got the LeBrons and the Kobes and the Steph Currys. They're always gainfully employed. But the majority of people who are in these worlds that you don't hear of, they are sometimes find themselves on the fringes, where they had a job, but that job ended, but they don't know when the next job is coming. And the phone is not ringing, and they're like, okay, what do I do now? In the entertainment world, these people go work at Starbucks and they serve tables, right? They wait tables, or they drive Uber because they got to make ends meet until that next job comes in. I was in a situation where the phone was not ringing. My agent was saying, hey, stay in shape. That's what they say. Just stay in shape, because when the phone rings, you got to get on the plane the next day. That's how it is. That's how that life is. And at this time, I'm getting into my mid to late 20s, John, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, I don't have any control over my destiny. And I need to get some control over my destiny. This was cute when I was 23, but now 26, 27, no, we can't keep living like this. I need some control. So at the time, I had just been, so I want to go backwards in the story a little bit, because this is when I started thinking more entrepreneurially. Up to that point, I've been thinking just like an athlete, basketball player. I was a marketer, but I wasn't really thinking like an entrepreneur. I was thinking like a salesperson. I just got to sell myself, get the next job, sell myself, get the next job. And that had worked until it didn't. All right. So now I go back in the story. About 2001, 2002, I'm on my campus, Penn State, Altoona, and I see this bulletin board posting, again, millennials. Back in the days, when somebody wanted to put a message out, they couldn't put it on the internet. They had to put it on this thing called a bulletin board, which you had to physically walk past and you could see what it said. So I'm being facetious here, so millennials. And so on the bulletin board, this guy had this post that said, you want to make some extra money in the summer. And if you don't call this number or come to this meeting at this time, it was something like that. So I called the number, came to the meeting. This guy, random guy, didn't go to school there. I don't know where this guy came from or why he was in Altoona, Pennsylvania, but he was doing network marketing. I had never heard of network marketing. And he explained briefly what it was and what it did. And it intrigued me because the main thing I was listening to was that unlimited income potential. I said, okay, this is a way to make some money. And back then, there was no name, image, and likeness deals for athletes. So athletes we really had a short end of the stick in college because not only did we have a full course load, we also were playing a sport. So it's almost like you had two jobs and you weren't allowed to really do anything to make money. You had no time to make money. So this guy gave me an opportunity to make some money. I said, okay, I'll go to a couple of the hotel meetings. And if you've never been to a hotel meeting, you should go to a hotel meeting because there are things you learn there that you ain't going to learn on the college campus. And I'll tell you what happened, give you my own experience. I go to the hotel meeting, and in this meeting, the man on the stage talking, there's a lot of people in the room, the man on the stage talking was explaining concepts about business and about entrepreneurship and about making money. And he was breaking a whole lot of false ideas that I had in my head up to that point, my 21-year-old brain. He broke a lot of false beliefs that I had about money and business in this little 45-minute meeting. And about 80% of the meeting was just about getting your mind right around entrepreneurship, business, and money. It wasn't even about the product or whatever the actual company was. That was only a small portion of it. But I remember sitting there thinking to myself, I'm in college in the business program. I have a business degree. I have a 4-year business degree. And the things that this man was talking about on the stage, no one taught me in 4 years of college. And I said that these people are on to something. This is this whole little sub-universe of people here that I never heard of. Nobody ever told me about this, but they had this whole universe. This was not a sparsely packed room. There's a lot of people in there. And they were all excited. Half of them were already in the business and half of them were there to see the business, right? That's what you do. And I said, what these guys are talking about, if this is true, because I was a little bit skeptical because I'm like, I never heard it. I'm 21. I think I'm pretty smart. I'm in college. I've never heard anybody say anything like this before. Is this real? Why are my parents doing this? Why did they not teach me this? Why did my teachers in school not teach me this? So it really opened my eyes in a big way. And good thing is, thanks to my parents, my mother is an educator. So I've always been a big reader, always been in the books. At the end of this hotel meeting, the man on the stage says, when you leave the room, there's a table out front, and there's some ladies sitting at the table, some nice ladies at the table. They're selling personal development books. You all need to buy those books because if you're going to build your business, the first thing you got to build is yourself. You got to build your mind. I never heard anybody say that before. I said, wow, like, that makes sense. That makes sense. If you're going to build a business, you got to build you first, and then you build the business. I never heard him again. And he was talking to the people who are already in the business, but I got the message because I was there. And I went out and I looked at the table, and I remember him mentioning names. And he mentioned a bunch of names I never heard of before. He said, make sure you get the Brian Tracy and the Jim Rohn and Napoleon Hill and the Tony Robbins and the Zig Ziglar. And I said, who? I never heard of these people. And again, 21 years old college student, never heard of these people. But I went and looked at the books, which I did not buy because I was a broke college student. I had no money. But I looked at them and I remembered them. I went back home when I got back to college, this is what I did, John. I went on eBay because this is before Amazon took over. I went on eBay and I bought a couple of pirated copies of a few of those books. So 99 cents, and they sent me a Word document. That's what I did. And I bought two books specifically I remember. I bought Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill for 99 cents. And I bought Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki for 99 cents. It was the best $2 I ever spent, $1.98. And in those two books, when I read Napoleon Hill, it really opened my eyes to the fact that, by the title, it even tells you, you can consciously and intentionally alter your thought patterns to change the trajectory of your life and change the outward results of your life. He was the first person that was the first time that was ever explained to me. And I believed it. When I read through that book, I 100% believed it and still believe it to this day. That introduced me to this concept of personal development, which again is another phrase I never heard of before I came to that hotel meeting. Secondly, when I read Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, that book guaranteed that I would never be an employee again in my life when I read that book, because Robert Kiyosaki explained what he did. Went even further than the guys in the network marketing meeting went, because he juxtaposed. The book is, you read the book, I'm sure, John, Robert Kiyosaki. Okay, so he's juxtaposing. Here's what people do in the traditional path, and here's what here's what the other people do. And a smaller percentage of people do it this way, but everybody seems to go this way. And this is what they teach you in school, because his poor dad was an educator who worked for the government and did everything by the book. He became poor. This guy was a dropout who didn't really follow the rules, and he did everything outside of the book, and he became rich. There's a different way of doing things, and it made perfect sense. The way Robert Kiyosaki broke it down, it made perfect sense. And I said to myself, okay, so this is why all right, where I live, people live like this. But then when I take the bus out to the mall in the suburbs and I go past those big houses with all the yards and grass, okay, they're doing something different than these people over here are doing. Okay, now I understand. Now this makes sense. It started making a lot of sense to me. So I went back in the story for one reason. Again, let's go flashback, 2009. My phone's not ringing. I'm a pro basketball player. I'm an unemployed, out of work pro basketball player with a YouTube channel. All right, and the YouTube channel is not doing anything. I mean, I have fans, but fans, you can't pay bills with fans, right? So I just finished reading basically the digital age version of Rich Dad Poor Dad, which was a book by a man by the name of Tim Ferriss. It was called The 4-Hour Workweek. And in the 4-Hour Workweek, John, Tim is talking about many similar principles to Kiyosaki, or it was parallel to Kiyosaki, in that he was talking about here's how you don't have to follow the traditional ways of working. You can make money, you can have time freedom, you can design a business to fit your lifestyle rather than designing your lifestyle to fit your business, and you can make money doing it. And you can do all this by using the internet. Robert Kiyosaki wasn't talking about the internet. Tim Ferriss incorporated the internet into this. He was the first person I ever heard say, you can go online and hire somebody who lives in India who you will never meet and pay them a fraction of what you would need to pay an American to work for you, and they can do the job just as well, if not better. He introduced the concept of delegation. I've never heard anybody talk about that before. He was the first one. And Tim had a very popular blog. So anybody wants to know why his books blew up, it's because he had a very popular blog before he wrote the books. I'll read his blog. And on his blog, he said, okay, if you want to test out a product idea and you have an audience, or if you don't have an audience, here's how you do it. And I did this. This is perfect timing for me because, again, my phone's not ringing. I got an audience on YouTube, but this audience is not making any money. So he said, go get this one-page website, and very simple, one-page website, put the name of what your product would be, give a little description of what it is, put a little button that says, buy this product for X, put the price of whatever you would sell it for. And then do that. And I did. So I decided, I had an audience of basketball players following me on the internet, 13 to 24-year-old young men who wanted to get better at basketball. They were aspiring players. These are not playing on the weekends for fun. These are guys who want to play high school, college, pro. So I knew exactly what my audience was. I created two fictitious programs, one for dribbling and one for shooting. So here's a dribbling program, here's a shooting program, here's what it's going to do, here's how it's going to help you. Buy this program for $4.99. Two programs on one page. $4.99 on a free hosting platform. So this costs no money. And Tim said, all right, do that, set it up, put the button, and if somebody clicks the button, you need one more page on your website. On the second page, put a note that says, hey, we're sorry, but this program is still under construction. So if you really want it, put your email address in this little box, and when it's ready, we will email you and let you know that it's ready. And Tim said, go on Google AdWords. This is when Google AdWords is a very simple platform, and put $5 into your account. $5. Run ads for the keyword that your program is about. And my keyword was like basketball training or basketball workouts, whatever it was. Run ads for it. Send traffic to that one-page website you just created. If you get people putting their email address into that page because they clicked the button that said buy it for X price, so they know the price and they know they want it. If you get people putting their email address in, you have a viable product. Go make it and sell it. And you already got your audience. Just email the people who already put their name in. And I did it. And not only did I have those email addresses coming in, I also had an audience on YouTube. And I'll get to that in a second. And by the way, disclaimer here for everybody listening to this in 2023 and beyond, you cannot do this experiment with $5. You probably need 50 these days, but everything else you can do. Everything else I explained to you, you can do. You just need to spend more money on ads. So I made the programs that day, not that week, not that month, that day. And that's important because I was just talking to a client of mine she's working with some people that are moving way too slowly. And I told her this thing that's taking a month only takes a day. So anyway, that day I made the programs. I put a little video on YouTube, 2-minute video. I said to my fans on YouTube, hey, I got this new website called hoophandbook.com. That was the name of the site. I got two programs, one for dribbling, one for shooting. The site still exists to this day. And you all can go get the programs. So all I've been asking me, how can I train like Dre? Here's how you can do it. Just go get the programs. And I remember that night, John, I had the little BlackBerry phone at the time. This is before I switched to iPhone. And every time you got an email on BlackBerry back then, a little red light would go off. And the red light went off and said, congratulations, you made a sale of $4.99. And I remember when I made that sale, John, I said to myself, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life because I know there's a shelf life to being an athlete. There's only so long that you can run faster or jump higher than other people. But what I had just done was another term that I learned. I had just taken an idea out of my head, turned it into something real, and exchanged that real thing for money. I just created a business out of nowhere. And what I had created was what I now know to be intellectual property, another phrase that I wasn't familiar with, despite my business degree. Right. So when I put that program out and it's sold and it continued to sell, I said, okay, if my phone never rings again, my agent never calls me, and I'll get another opportunity to play pro basketball, I can just do this. I'm fine. Now, luckily, my phone didn't ring again, and I kept playing pro ball till 2015. But from 2010 to 2015, or 2009 to 2015, second half of my career, I had two things going on at the same time. So I had this audience on YouTube that was getting bigger. Around this time, also what happened, John, was in this 2009, 2011 period was very important for me. It was an inflection point in my life because several things happened. Number one, I started selling this program. So now I'm making money from the fact that I have an audience on the internet. Number two, self-publishing became a thing. That led to the book writing, which I'll get to in a second. Number three is the players who are following me on YouTube. Again, it's all basketball players. They started asking me questions about my mindset because they saw that here's this guy, kept trying after he kept getting cut in high school, walked on to play in college, played at Division III, but kept trying to make it pro, made it pro, is finding himself unemployed over and over again. He's on a team, then he doesn't, not on the team. He has a job, then he doesn't have a job, but he keeps trying. All right, this guy is that obviously they saw there was something in my mental wiring that kept me going. They wanted to know what it was. So they were asking so many questions about mindset. I decided one Monday on YouTube, because at this point, 100% of my content was basketball. I said to them, all right, look, this is what I'm going to do. Every Monday, I'm going to put out a video where I just talk to you all a little bit about mindset, just to give you something, because all you keep asking me, just to give you something to help you understand my thought process. And I would talk about things like discipline and confidence and mental toughness and personal initiative and taking personal ownership and all those success principles, the personal development stuff that would come out of me. And I thought everybody felt like this. I didn't really think it was anything new or different or interesting about these concepts. I thought really I was preaching to the choir, John, honestly. I thought every human being thought the way that I was talking. And I started putting these videos out every Monday. I called them weekly motivation. And I said to them, when I put the first one out, John, I said, if you all want me to make more videos like this one, because this was an experiment, mind you, 100% of my content up to this point was me on the court doing drills. This is the first time I did a video where I'm just talking about something that was not basketball. So y'all want to do more, just let me know. And responses every time, yes, do more, do more, do more. I do the weekly motivation every Monday for 400 Mondays in a row. All right, that became the foundation of where we are today while we're having this conversation right now. So that also happened in that 2009 to 2011 time period. And also one more thing, YouTube allowed you to start monetizing your videos. So now they start putting ads on the videos. So there was a time, those of you not old enough to remember, you could watch YouTube all day and there were no ads. But that was over now because now they're putting ads in popular videos. So now I'm making money from the YouTube ad revenue. I'm selling my own programs. I started self-publishing books around 2010, started self-publishing my own books, have worked with traditional publishers and self-publishing. And I had this mindset piece going. So this mindset piece, and I'll wrap the story up in a second. This mindset piece that I started talking about here, John, started to draw people who didn't play ball. Now I'm putting these videos on YouTube, and again, it's called Weekly Motivation, and it'll say something about like showing up every day for discipline, something like that. It didn't say anything about basketball. So now people who don't play basketball are starting to find me on YouTube. And they're reaching out and saying, Dre, I don't even play basketball. I mean, I follow your channel, but I ignore all the basketball stuff. I just follow you for that every video, that Monday, every Monday, that video every Monday. I just see that. I don't follow you for that. I don't want to learn how to do the Kobe Bryant move. But that Monday video, I want to see that. So this planted a seed in my head, John, because mind you, I told you that I knew basketball has a shelf life, and no basketball player is going to be the coolest player forever, because when you're not playing anymore, then the players aren't checking for you. They're checking for the next guy, the new young guy. So I said, okay, when I get done playing basketball, all I have to do is take this mindset stuff that I'm talking about, and I'll just do more of that and less of the basketball. And now I'll talk to people who don't play sports. That will take me from end of basketball to the end of my life. The next 60 years after basketball, I can just do this. So that's the idea that I had. And again, this is in 2010. I didn't stop playing until 2015. So in 2015, when I stopped playing, that's exactly what I did. By that point, I had already done a little bit of coaching with people. I had already probably had 6 or 7 books written at that point. I already knew exactly what my angle was. I was calling it Work on Your Game. I was talking about mindset. And then over time, it morphed into helping entrepreneurs and helping people make money and doing things like that. And that's pretty much what we've been doing for the last 8 years since then. So that's a long story, but that is how we got here.
Well, we talk in network marketing for years, the 40 plus years I've been doing this. It's funny, by the way, I started about the same age. When you went to that meeting, that was me in 1983. I was at Seton Hall. I was graduating. I went to my first meeting. I was 20 or 21. I think I was 20. So we were about the same age when we were exposed. The same thing. I was like, wow, there's this universe of all of these people I never heard of. And back then, of course, some of the names, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale, eventually, Tony Robbins and Kiyosaki and Jim Rohn, of course, and others. But to that point, what you just gave there, to me, is probably one of, if not the greatest examples of how to employ yourself. You took basketball, which you loved, right? But to your point, there's a shelf life on all this stuff. I've been an athlete my whole life. My son was a very high-level hockey player. Hey, there's a point. You get hurt. You're not good enough. You're not motivated anymore. Whatever it happens to be, where you say, okay, what now, right? We've seen, two amazing examples in Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan, right? Go from being the best to the business world being equally, if not better, successful. A-Rod's following that and a few others. But anyway, rather than talking about sports, staying on the business side of this thing, the examples you gave, because you had that figured out that, hey, I'm going to have to do something else at some point. Now, let's talk about that a little bit. You've helped well in excess, documented, by the way, folks, documented well over 1,000 people to grow their income in their respective businesses. And you work with people in all different walks of life. Network marketing is what I do, but you work with everybody under the sun in all different kinds of professions. All people have one thing in common, that they want to get better. They want to improve their income. They want to improve their lives. They want to improve their business, right? Over 1,000 people go from 6 figures to 7. If you had to give a couple of key points in the thinking of people to go from 6 to 7, nothing wrong making 6 figures, but 7 is, as we both know, is a whole different world, right? What would be your key points?
Man, well, the biggest key point is that you got to leave some things behind in order to move forward. And that applies to anyone who's trying to make a big jump in anything. It doesn't matter if it's in dollars, and it doesn't even have to be in those dollar figures, but in any aspect of life, when you're trying to go from one level to the next, and you know that it's a significant jump from one level to the next level, that you have to leave behind some of your current habits here, and you have to take on some new habits to get to that next level. And that's going to be, and you're going to feel is maybe some trepidation, some fear, some anxiety, some stress, and some discomfort, because you are not used to these new habits and you're not used to being in this new space. And at the same time, you dropped a lot of things that you were comfortable with in your past self. And this resonating here, and you will feel these energies, these emotions. And this is the reason why many people don't move forward in life, is because not because they don't have the skill or the ability, and not because they're not aware of the opportunity, is because they don't want to deal with the discomfort that comes with stepping up to another level. And it is uncomfortable. If you feel comfortable all the time and everything you're doing, you're not going to another level. You're in the same spot. And for some people, that's okay. But if you want to go to another level, understand that discomfort is part of the package deal. So that's the most important part.
Great. Well, let me ask you this. You've got a book offer of the 33 books that you've already written, and I'm sure there's probably another 33 that are going to come over the next decade or so. But let's talk about the Third Day book, because I know you have an exclusive offer for our listeners. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so this is that book, The Third Day, the decision that separates the pros from the amateurs. And I'll offer people a free copy of this book. Just cover the shipping. Just go to thirddaybook.com. But let me tell you what the book is about. This book originated actually back in 2014. So at this time, I'm still in the basketball space heavily, and I had a lot of basketball player audience members watching me, and they would notice that when I did my videos, I was always in this gym that seemed to be empty aside from me. I just had this big gym. It was a very nice gym, nice clean floors, and there would never be anybody else in the gym other than me. And these players were, a little bit envious of me, right? How do you have a gym to yourself? Because anybody who plays basketball, you go to the park or the local gym to play, there's 100 guys in there. So how do you have a gym to yourself? They say, Joe, you got a gym in your house? Do you rent the gym out? Do you own the gym? How are you getting this gym to yourself? And I answered them by explaining the concept that became the third day. And I explained to them, listen, on the first day, you give everybody in neighborhood access to this gym. On the first day, everybody's going to be in there playing because everybody's excited to play. Second day, you still got most of the people, but a few didn't show up. A few people came in a little bit late, straggling. By the third day, the gym's empty. And why is that? And this is metaphorical. It doesn't have to be 1, 2, 3 days in a row. This can be the first month, second month, third month. Think about a gym. January, February, by March is back to the same people from last year, right? January and February, you got all these new people trying the gym out for the first time, or this renewed in the gym by March, and same people. The whole point is, the third day is about people understanding that, or people coming to the realization, rather, anything that you start, that eventually you're going to get to a point known as the third day when you realize that this thing you started is not going to be just one big picnic. It's not going to be all fun and games. It's not going to be easy. And it's not going to be smooth sailing. There's going to be some grit and grind required for you to make this thing work. There's going to be some long days. There's going to be some rough patches. And the third day is not about the occurrence of that happening, because that's guaranteed to happen to everybody. Anything you do, that happens. Third day is about the decision that you make when it happens as to what you're going to do. Are you with it? And it's binary. Are you going to continue to show up at a high level, even when you don't feel like showing up at a high level? Or are you going to get an amateur who either quits, or you only show up halfway? Those are the only options you have. And the third day book is all about how do you structure and strategize in your life, your business, your career, your whatever, such that you can show up and give your best effort on the days that you least feel like it. And the subtitle of this book is The Decision That Separates the Pros from the Amateurs, because the pros, the dictionary definition of a professional, is someone who does something as their main paid occupation. The only way you can get paid consistently to do anything is if you deliver consistently. Nobody pays for randomness. Nobody pays for surprises. We pay for consistency. We pay for things that we know we're going to get. And if we stop, we stop paying. That's the way it works. So the pros are those who have to show up every time and deliver, because that's what you're getting paid to do. Whereas the amateurs, they can afford to not show up because they're not getting paid anyway. So if they decide not to show up, nobody cares because nobody's depending on them. Professionals are dependent on. So that's what this book is about. How to be that person who is dependent on and relied upon and expected to deliver. And even when they're all expecting it, you do it every single time. That's what that book is about. And again, I'll give anyone who would like a free copy of the book. All we ask is that you cover the shipping. Just go to thirddaybook.com.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about that award hanging next to your right shoulder there. What is that?
Oh, that's my Grammy Award for my country music album. So that's a 2 Comma Club award that I got from the ClickFunnels organization. They had this conference called Funnel Hacking Live. And this award is for earning at least $1 million in one sales funnel. That's what that is. That's for Work on Your Game University, my coaching program.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let me ask you this: 33 books. What's next?
What's next? Well, I will write more. I know this year, I don't know when this is coming out, but in 2023, I told myself I wasn't going to write any new books, and I have not. And I'll probably make it through the year without writing a new one. But I got some ideas for some new ones that I am going to write. But the biggest thing for me is big picture. We want to take Work on Your Game. We want to turn it into, for personal and professional development, what Nike is when it comes to athletics. Like Nike has just do it. When you just do it, you immediately associate Nike, athletics, and their gear. So want people to hear Work on Your Game and immediately associate that with what we do in personal and professional development. That's the big picture.
Let's talk network marketing for a minute, because you know you had a little bit of experience early on there, and obviously you've moved on to other things, but you know the industry, you know the cultures of some of the companies, you know what guys like myself and many of my listeners do on a daily basis, right? You know, we talk to people about our products and about our opportunity.
Yeah.
What couple of things could we do better, and what other things should we eliminate that might be holding us back?
Great question. A couple of things could you do better, and what things could you eliminate? Well, the most important thing that every salesperson needs to do, we are all salespeople, is we want to streamline our process. Streamline our process when it comes to how and when and where we get our leads, when it comes to how we can introduce people to our opportunities, how we can close them on the opportunity, also in building our teams. That's one of the biggest things you do in network marketing, is aside from, as opposed to being just a salesperson, is you get to build a team and you get the benefit when the team benefits. So Learning how to build a team, this is working on your leadership skills. That's definitely something that every entrepreneur who plans on having a team needs to do, is work on yourself, work on your leadership skills, and really work on it. You need some type of process for working on yourself and making yourself better. And things that you said one thing they should do more, one thing less of. What was the question?
Yeah, one thing they should do more of, and one thing perhaps that they should do less of.
One thing they should do less of. So I don't know if there's a general answer to this, but what I would say to each individual person is you should do an 80-20 analysis of what you're doing. What is the 20% of your inputs that are meeting 80% of your results? And the things that are in the 80% of your inputs that are meeting only 20% of your results, those are some sacred cows that you got to kill. You got to decide what sacred cows you want to sacrifice. And the 80% activities that are meeting 20% of our outcomes, they're usually things that are very habitual for us, things we're very comfortable doing, things we've gotten really good at doing, and things we would feel naked if we stopped doing them. Those are the exact things you got to kill off.
You know, I love your message, and let me just speak to the leadership, because we have people, multi-million-dollar earners, listen to our show, and we got new people, but they're all influencers, because they all are in different companies that are at different stages in their development. Some of the very large companies in the industry, some of the smaller companies, some of the mid-sized companies, but all the people that listen to our show have influence within their respective companies. And our show's generic, so we got about 80 different companies represented that people have written to me on. I know you're available, but your message and network marketing, I think, would resonate, not only because you had some experience early on, but the employ yourself strategy that you described of how your life and your career has evolved, I think is relevant. So, to my friends in network marketing, get a hold of Dre, get a hold of your company, either your owner or whoever plans your events, and get Dre as a speaker. Would you be open to that, Dre? I mean, I know you love network marketing people, so would you be open to that?
I would be open to that. I've been trying to crack the network marketing nut for a while. It's hard to get in there, but I will take any way in. I'll take it.
Let's help Dre do that, because his message resonates so well. He's so enthusiastic. He's so driven. And yet everything he talks about, you and I can do, most importantly. There's nothing here that's brain surgery. So, Dre, just kind of in wrapping up, we're at year end. This is our last broadcast of 2023, which is amazing because, as I get older, it seems like it's like, Christmas, 4th of July, Christmas. And it seems like, we just had like 4th of July, and before that we had Christmas, and here we are at the end of the year. So let's talk about 2024 for a minute and beyond. What are some of the things, once again, that our people can do to launch 2024, come out of the box January 1st, and go out and build their businesses, be they network marketing or, some of our people are people that are also in real estate, insurance and such, and listen to the show, and they dabble in network marketing, whatever they do, life, business is part of life. Your life is more important than your business, certainly. But, how do they get out there in 2024 and make it happen?
Man, so what I do every year, I do an episode to my audience that tells them what the focus should be for the year. So last year's focus, I'll tell you the focus I gave people for 2023, which is multiplication via investment. And that you want to multiply your results, then you got to make investments in yourself. And there are 5 forms of investment: time, money, attention, energy, and focus. And that you have to put these investments into anything that you're doing if you want to create a high level result. So, and that will allow you to multiply your results instead of simply adding on with your results. So look for ways that you can invest in yourself and make yourself better. Sometimes the best investment is divestment. And that's why I just talked about getting rid of stuff. 80-20 analysis, what do you need to get rid of? Because anyone listening to this who wants to go to a much higher level, we're talking multiples higher level next year than where you are this year, then some of the things you're doing now have to go. They cannot come with you into next year. And people tend to say that. It's like almost like a saying. People are like dropping all the old stuff, and there's a new me in this year, whatever year it happens to be. But you got to actually really do this. And it should feel uncomfortable for you. If it doesn't feel uncomfortable, you haven't dropped enough things. So what are you dropping? What are you getting rid of to go into next year? And then what do you want to invest in to move yourself forward? Because whatever it is you invest in, they're probably going to tell you the same thing I'm telling you right now. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't invest. You still invest.
Folks, just in wrapping up, in the show notes, we'll have ways for you to contact Dre and his company and to get his books. We're becoming an affiliate of Dre's work because that's how strongly we feel about it, that it's life-changing. Dre is somebody, when that next evolution happens of people in network marketing and sales, Dre Baldwin's going to be talked about. Kind of like, I said earlier, 1983, I heard of, Dr. Napoleon Hill and Earl Nightingale and Charlie Tremendous Jones and people like that. And all those fellows passed away. And then, of course, you had Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and others such as that. Dre is a young man that I believe 20, 30 years down the road, he's going to be talked about his works. Hey, I read this book by this guy, Dre Baldwin, in whatever year it was, and it changed my life. That's how strongly I feel about your work, Dre. So I'm going to give you the last word, my friend.
Well, I appreciate that, John. I appreciate that good word. And also, of course, for sharing your audience with me. So the last word that I would give to everybody is understand that we all have a game. Everybody has a game, whether you're a librarian, network marketer, athlete, podcaster, or anywhere in between. We all have a game that we are involved in. Our job is to find out and make sure we are clear on what exactly game we're in. Then we develop our skills. We work on our game so we can have the skill to perform in the game. We create our opportunity. We create our opportunities. We go out there and perform. When you perform, you get results. When you produce results, you get rewards, whatever rewards you want. And then we repeat the cycle and do it all over again. So working on your game, that's the most important thing.
Well, thank you, Dre. I appreciate it, and continued good success. Hang on one second. We'll do a little housekeeping after I shut off the recording here. But thank you again, my friend, and happy early New Year to you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for sharing your platform.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Leave Nothing to Chance. If you want to know more about what it takes to succeed in the network marketing space, join us again next week for another amazing episode. For additional resources and to connect with John Solleder, visit leavingnothingtochance.com. Don't forget to leave a review, and we'll see you next time.